Welcome to Secrets from the Saddle podcast. I'm Sylvie, your host, fellow cyclist, bike club founder, cycling coach, bike race junkie, just truly super passionate about cycling. My journey with cycling started 20 years ago when I opened a spin studio, started a women's race team, and founded a women's only cycling club called CycleFitness. I'm super thrilled to reveal all aspects that make the world of cycling operate. I'm so excited to be able to bring you interesting people from around the world, pro cyclists, recreational cyclists, coaches, event organizers, bike shop owners, everything and everyone you need to know or ever wondered about when it comes to cycling. I know you'll enjoy this episode. Hey. Welcome back, everyone, to an episode of Secrets from the Saddle, All Things Cycling Podcast with your host, Sylvie Deu. And I have the pleasure of bringing a new friend on the podcast. I met him at one of the Gravel Cup events that I participated in Calabogie. We have Jonathan Allen. He is the owner and curator of All Day Magazine, and it's an online magazine. Is it printed as well?
It's online only, not printed. Correct.
Yeah, so online, and he also does a lot of product reviews for cycling. So I'm super excited to have him on the podcast to talk about his magazine and to share everything that he's doing there. Welcome, Jonathan, to the podcast.
Well, thanks a lot for having me, and it's a pleasure to be part of that podcast. It was long overdue, and I'm sorry about this, but yeah, it's a pleasure to talk about my experience and to the listeners, and yeah.
Excellent. So I know, like you said, I was bugging him ever since I met him. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I need on my podcast. Someone who does product reviews, but that's not, we'll probably maybe get into that, but because I suspect that a lot of product reviews end up in your magazine, but also
Correct.
how you create your magazine. But before we get into all of that, the question is, how did you get into cycling and how did it lead you to create your online all day magazine?
Well, it's an interesting question because as far as I can remember, I was on a bike. So when I was younger, I was not the type of playing video games. I got the first Nintendo as a gift. And I really remember exactly when it happened. It happened when I was about 4 years old. I think I played with it twice. I was always outside. I was always on my bike in the summer, of course. And after that, when I grew up a little bit, I got into a little bit more of mountain biking and reading those mountain bike action and mountain bikes magazines and dreaming of being in one of them one day and getting into a little bit more of the competitive side. So when I was a bit younger, I did some mountain bike racing in terms of whether cross country mountain biking and a little bit of dual slalom at some point, which was super interesting, and which led me to doing downhill biking and having a big accident in Bromont while I broke my back, I broke my nose, I got a big concussion. So it brought back into perspective what I was doing on my bike. I was 18 years old at that time, and things are getting a little bit more serious in your life. So I needed to cut back a little bit on the crazy side of biking, and because of the accident, of course, we all know when we have some kind of a crash at some point, well, you get scared a little bit. So I needed to cut down a little bit on the downhill side and keeping the cross country side. And after I honestly stopped doing some biking for a few years because I was working, I was busy, I had few businesses also while I was working also. So I stopped for maybe about 6-7 years ballpark. And something really important happened in my life, and I needed to dig in myself to see, well, at what point in your life you were happy and everything was doing fine, you know, and you sometimes you need to dig deep. And at some point I said, well, riding a bike made me happy. When I was on my free time, I was biking. I was doing about 30 kilometers a day to go to my job when I was younger on my downhill bike, which was pretty crazy when we think about it. But still, I was always on my bike. I checked recently my my high school year-end book, and the phrase I had in it was that to become a cycling pro. So I guess at some point it's been here for a while. I'm 40 years old now, so and I got back into cycling and mountain biking, and at some point my doctor asked me to make some decisions in terms of or whether you're continuing snowboarding or you're doing flat biking, but you can't do both because you had too many concussions. So we need to do some risks, some calculations to see what would be less risky at some point. And I decided to quit snowboarding after 20 over 20 years.
Wow.
And I stepped into fat biking because it was the continuity of the summer season, I guess. And I fell in love with the sport, to be quite honest with you. And now I'm biking almost 11 and a half months per year. So I'm really into it more than ever. And this is, so I've been cycling and on a bike for a while now.
Well, I know. So where are you now? You're in the Laurentians?
I am in Saint Adele, which is in the
Oh yeah,
Laurentians, in the
Laurentians.
province of Quebec, which
Yeah.
is, to be honest with you, I don't know if you know the Petit Train du Nord, which is one of the
Yeah.
longest cycling path in Canada. I live literally a minute from the Petit Train du Nord, which is a great place to cycle. I have mountain biking and fat biking spots 7 minutes from my house. I have what we call in Quebec the corridor aerobic, which is a little bit more of a rugged gravel trail that has 55 kilometers of it's an awesome backyard to actually have that 7 minutes from my house. So I'm really in the cycling paradise. That's what I like to call it. And that's where I'm staying right now.
That's kind of like my location, Chelsea, Quebec. Maybe not
Oh yeah.
as deep,
Yeah.
but we've got everything, the snowboarding, the skiing, the
Yeah.
gravel, the downhill. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah. We
we're
have
pretty
everything.
damn lucky, aren't we? I would
Yeah,
say.
I'm truly blessed. And actually the decision to move here was taken in 2019, right before COVID. So I
Thank God.
mean, yeah, actually I'm pretty lucky that I was able to move here and I have that opportunity to cycle around my house while we were locked down and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So now that you said that you've always been an entrepreneur, let's
Yeah.
talk about the creation of the All Day Online Magazine
Yeah, well,
and
it's
how
it's
that idea
funny.
came about.
It's an interesting journey because before I had All Day Magazine, I was blogging by myself. It was called
Oh,
The
okay.
Official Bike. It was only bike related stuff, and at some point, during my birthday, a little bit over 2 years ago in July, I was in Quebec City, and I was like, wait a minute. Cycling is great. It's a big part of my life, but I also like to hike. I also like to camp. I also like
Mm,
to travel. So why don't I try to find some people to help me out and really create an online magazine that we will cover it all? And after discussions with some of the brands I'm working with on a regular basis, they all said, well, it's an awesome idea and we will be glad to join. So in January of 2021, yes, already, it was created. And all the reviews I did before was on the website. We had a good following base and everything. And we started doing covering trail running, hiking,
mm.
snowshoeing, for example, paddle boarding, camping and everything that is adventure related, climbing. So I'm honestly, I'm truly blessed to have an awesome team of collaborators that I have, because it's all people that are not professional. The angle we are using for our magazine is really to reach the regular people, so not the technical people, or the top writers that likes to have that are more data oriented type of people,
Mm-hmm.
or like super techie specs. This is not what we do. Actually, we
Yeah.
cover the product to see, this is the product, this is how we have used it. Do we like it? Do we don't like it? If we like it, what do we like? Or if we don't like it, what we don't like? And at the end of the day, the conclusion is that, well, is that for X amount of dollars, is it something that we would recommend to buy or not? So we really keep it really simple. But at the end of the day, this is what people want to know, in my opinion. They
Mm-hmm.
want to know, is it doing the job it is supposed to do? Do
Mm-hmm.
you think that for the price I'm going to invest in that product, it's going to be a great product? And um, we are trying, because saying pretty often the question is yes. We are trying to be super independent from the brands. So
Right.
yes, the brands are asking us to test their product, but they are really aware that if something is going on, we're going to advise our people. We're going to say, well, this part failed. If we don't talk about, for example, manufacturers defects, which can happen to any
Mm-hmm.
companies.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, we reach out to the brand, say, hey, this is what happened. If the first time they replaced the product and it's not coming back after, we won't talk about it, because it happens. But if
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
second time it happens, well, visibly there's something going on. So in that case, we're going to talk about it. So this is the angle we are using to do our product reviews, or even articles, because sometimes we visit, for example, I visited last winter Empire 47 in Quebec City, which is pretty much the fat bike mecca in Canada. I really liked my
Yeah.
experience, so I shared my experience of
Mm-hmm.
how did it go, and it was really the perfect weekend to test their trails and everything. So yeah,
I really love that because as a user, I'm like I've been in cycling for a lot of years, but
yeah,
I don't I'm not a complete data oriented person. I'm like I don't do tons of research because I just don't have the time. If I like what I hear and I like what I see and I
yeah,
like the reviews, then most likely that's the product I'll go with. I won't go and compare with like 5, 10 other, trying to find the
yeah,
pros and the cons and the this and then that because I just don't have time. I just want I
correct.
want a product that a lot of people recommend. They've used it. They're just like me,
Yeah,
average person. Um, and I love that. I love that about you because the techie stuff is just so over my head. And like I said, sometimes I feel like
correct.
I should be super techie because I've been in the industry and raced and had different
Yeah,
bikes. And I feel like, I'm definitely not there like that person. Talking
yeah,
about, wheels and tire pressure and maybe I should do some more reading, but I don't have the time. But so I me and I'm sure I'm probably like 90% of the average person out there or female
correct.
getting into it just appreciate the basics. So thank you.
Yeah, we want to keep it we want to keep it to, or bring it back to basics, because I'm the perfect example. And actually, how I started doing reviews is also interesting, because I was in the advertising
Oh.
industry, advertising and news industry. Before I was a account manager for some medias, and I realized that most of the time what you see online or even in magazine, it's paid advertising. So at the end
Mm,
of the day, when you're reading what it shows, it's like, listen, buddy, you copy pasted a text sheet or whatever. So at the end of the day, it doesn't give you a feedback of a real usage of that
mm,
product, and it's
right.
it's it's biased in the same, in a way that, well, actually they just want to sell the product. Or even when you have discount codes, for some people on YouTube, for example, well,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, they will have there's a certain ROI on that, return on
On
investment,
investment.
and at the end of the day, is that how your credibility is affected by those kinds of stuff. In our case, we don't believe in that, and some of the brands that they're like, well, in that case, it's less interesting for us.
Yeah,
And I
you're
was
like,
like,
yeah.
well, maybe, but actually there people will have a real feedback on your product. So if you are comfortable with your product and you really like it, like the bike I
Like,
had this season, I told them right off the bat, and you can read it in my review actually.
yeah, I
I
saw it
told
come
them
out.
I won't be careful with that bike. I'm gonna test it out, and at the end of the season, if the bike is destroyed, well, it's gonna be it. And same thing for their Wilsons, and they were like, "Go ahead, we're super comfortable with that.
Yeah, you got to
This
be
is what we
confident.
want to
Yeah.
hear. This is what." Well, I gave them like super quickly some feedbacks, and I was, "Oh, I like this feature." And have you guys thought of maybe modifying that thing? And they were like, "Why?" Well, I said, "Well, in XYZ situation, it would be better." So they were like, oh yeah, that's interesting. So sometimes,
Hmm.
just to bring them a different type of feedback on and right away, it can affect some stuff. I uh, I actually reviewed a Panorama fat bike 3 years ago, most probably about 3 years ago, and the feedback I had that it was that the bike is awesome, but people are expecting for that price with a dropper seat post. Well, next season they introduced a dropper seat post after my feedback, so I was like,
Right.
"Oh, that's pretty cool." I have some of
Ah.
an influence at the end of the day, and but
Yeah.
they're really open to listen to what we're saying about their products and everything.
That's cool. So can you talk about, so you mentioned that there's all different categories kind of in your magazine. So
Correct.
do you, and you mentioned collaborating. So how many people on your team do you have? And
It changes because some are leaving, some are coming. Most of the time, we're between 4 and 7.
oh
It
wow.
depends on the seasons, but I was lucky enough to have Maxim, which he was a great trail runner, but he's a PhD candidate in psychology, and he's finishing his PhD as we speak, maybe graduating like next week. And at some point, it was like, Jonathan, I really like what I'm doing with the magazine, but I have my thesis to write, my and everything. I just can't handle like computer writing anymore. And as he said, it's enough. But you know what? After 2 years, I was like, dude, it's okay, and we don't pressure our collaborators to produce some stuff every week or whatever,
Hmm.
or we give them a deadline for their product. Like, I need that review in a month. This is not how it's happening. We want to keep it chill. We want to keep it funny and interesting, and that the people are keeping going. So it brings a great team, a solid team, a team of different ages and backgrounds, and this is what it's awesome at the end of the day.
That's great. So what are all the different departments? So you said you had cycling, hiking, camping, winter
Trail running,
sports, trail running.
winter sports, we have paddle boarding,
Oh, yeah, that's
and
right.
climbing.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
cool because that does cover like year round. And are you going to be
Yeah.
adding any new things?
If I'm adding you mean
New
new divisions or
topics?
new?
Yeah.
We are working on it in terms of tourism. We're trying to work with
Oh.
tourism offices to create some content for some regions.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, so it's hard work. I must admit that in Quebec, being in English magazine is a bit harder.
Yeah.
But we realized that, quite frankly, on English portion of Canada, we are really welcomed and
Yeah.
appreciated. So we will cover probably a little bit less of Quebec stuff, sadly, but
Yeah.
cover a little bit more of stuff in the rest
Everywhere
of
else. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Oh well, there's a lot of, I mean, Quebec is great. It's got a lot of great features.
yeah,
And
yeah. Oh
unfortunately,
yeah,
that is the politics of Quebec, because I live here
correct.
too. So I'm like, and being English, yeah, it's always a
Exactly.
challenge, but there is the rest of the world that we have to explore, which is super nice.
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
what are you doing for next year? Like, do you have any things that you're going to be bringing into? So, oh yeah, here. How often does a magazine go out, or is it something that's
We
ongoing
don't,
that people can?
we create content almost ish weekly. So
Okay.
there's at least one review every week. We can have two in one week, so an average of one per week. This is what we have for the summer, which ends pretty soon.
Mm,
After that, in the winter is a little bit more slower, but we will try to create a different kind of content for winter, which is okay. I'm still gonna talk about fat biking. I'm still going to talk about snowshoeing or
mm-hmm.
whatever, backcountry skiing. These are the stuff that we have in the pipelines, but at the end of the day, uh, we are still waiting for brands to see if it's going to be okay or not. It's always sometimes a question of budget and everything. Yeah.
So you can go onto the All Day Magazine website to
Yes.
see everything.
Yeah. We
So
have
it's,
right now 160 ballpark articles that are
oh
on.
wow.
Yeah.
I guess I better get on there and take a look. So,
It's
like,
good bedtime reading.
yeah. So
So you
literally,
keep it relaxed and you're going to your head and you're dreaming or even
yeah.
analyzing
My
what
new
will be your
bike.
next buys or yeah.
Like literally to our listeners, I just got on the phone with Jonathan like 20 minutes ago. And I'm like, hey, do you have time for this podcast episode? He's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
timing was
So
good, eh?
yeah, it was great. I know because I was like,
Yeah.
he's like, I'm really busy. And I'm like, oh well. And my plans fell through this afternoon. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? So
Yeah.
I'm super excited that we could talk about this. Now tell us a little bit more about what you're up to. Like when you get a review, okay,
Yeah.
okay, you just answer that question. What are you up to?
What am I up to? I'm working on and it's a bit of a
Secret?
news. Well, it's not a secret. Actually, now it's you're the VIP having the info
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's going to
yeah.
be official pretty much when the podcast will get out. I'm
Yeah.
founding my bike brand. So
What?
yeah, I'm founding my bike brand. The first model we will have will be a gravel bike, of course.
Yay. It should be.
So
I
it's
know.
gonna be we're gonna officially launch the 2023 model in about a month. It's a carbon fiber bike. It's an awesome project I'm working on for a few months now, in collab with great components brands that quickly understood where I was going with that brand because at the end of the day, nobody reinvents the wheel. It's a great
Uh,
expression for the bike, but still, nobody
yeah.
reinvents the wheel these days in terms of biking.
Yeah.
But we wanted to focus a little bit more on the customer experience and
Mm-hmm.
inclusivity. Inclusivity meaning that whoever you are, whatever you do, there will be a bike for you at my new brand that will be called Locked and Loaded. Why I decided to call it Locked and Loaded, for some of the people it's that are maybe a more used to the military background or wording. Locked and Loaded, in our perspective, is somebody being pumped to do something. So for example, Sylvie, when we are at the starting line of the Gravel Cup Canada, we're all locked and loaded and ready to
That's right.
fire.
We're ready to go.
So it's an expression that we want people that they feel locked and loaded every time they are going on their bike, but not necessarily performance oriented. We don't want to make the promotion of performance. We want to make the promotion of being inclusive to whoever, from a starter to a little bit of a pro cyclist. So yeah, this is what I'm working on right now, and I think it's a right now in terms of gravel events, it's something that they are really working on in terms of
Mm,
inclusivity. We can talk about, let's say, Rasputitsa, who really wants are at some point right now thinking to see, okay, well, we want to change some stuff, and they're really taking some comments from the people to see where do you see yourself, how do you see gravel events, how do you
uh,
how can we bring more people in and keep it fun, because at some point I feel that we really talk about the performance or the pros of those big events, but we don't talk about the party in the back,
oh,
which is
that's why
probably
we go.
90, well,
That's
probably
why I'd like to go.
90% of the
Yeah.
people who's cycling are doing the party in the back kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that's right.
I'm doing the
99% of us.
Sabe set. Yeah,
We just
I'm
want to
doing the
finish and
Sabe
have a
set.
beer.
Yeah, I'm doing the Sabe set next Sunday, and it's a party gravel event. I mean,
Where's that?
it's in Bromont. It's organized
Um,
by Lindeset, the
oh,
ex-pro. Yeah,
oh, I
so
heard,
it's
but that's
next
next
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yep, it's sold out like for a month now.
Don't
Yeah.
worry, I can work my
So
magic.
yeah, so the brand, the first model we will have will be a gravel bike, and after that, merging along the way, we will bring more bikes. I don't plan on doing big mountain bikes or that kind of stuff, but we will have definitely a fat bike, gravel bike, of course. And yep, so it's a bit of a news flash for you guys. This is what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So it'll be, so when you do a brand like that, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll have to talk separately outside this, like when you get rolling, of course. But it is because you're not going to have stock. It's going to be on a purchase basis, or do you
No,
have?
we actually the way we're gonna work, because customer experience pass also by the relationship you have with your bike shops.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are ordering online, but they have a problem with their bikes. Well, warranty wise, it's a bit of a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so we want to work also the proximity of our clients. So we're going to attend gravel events. We really want to be close to our clients, but we won't, as a brand itself, we won't sell to the public. It's going to be sold in bike shops and only one online retailer in Canada, which is bikecomponents.ca. Um, and after that, actually, the possibilities as a customer is quite interesting, because you can order the frame, the color you want, if you want to. There will be stock in shops, of course. But if you are a little bit more patient, you will be able to select your color. You will be able to select the type of wheels you want and the type of tires you want in certain brands, because we want to work with the best in the business. So we have selected some brands, but within these brands, you will be able to select the parts you want. So if you want, for example, aluminum wheels for XYZ reason, you will be able to do that. If you want some carbon fiber wheels, you will be able to do that. If you wanted a matte purple carbon fiber gravel bike, you can do it without any problem, as long as you understand that there will be a little bit of a delay in terms of receiving the bike.
Mm-hmm.
But this is part of inclusivity, customer experience. We really want to have those people to be happy dealing with us. And also the bike shops who wants to order some specific colors or even have their logos on the bike, it will be available for them.
Ah, that's awesome. So I had a
Yeah.
question there. What the hell was I going to ask? It was along the lines of the ordering. Um, oh, frig. It totally slipped my mind. But so that's going to get started in the spring. So you're going to have it in different bike shops in Quebec?
Well, actually, they are really handpicked. The bike shops I'm dealing with, and we're keep opening new clients. But the bike shops we are working with, we want to work with people that can relate to the vision we have with this brand. We
Mm-hmm.
won't be, and there's some chains in Quebec of bike shops.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, sadly for them, it won't be there. We want to work with uh, smaller scale bike shops that are really also customer oriented, that believe in our business model, because all the brands we are working with to get that bike out believes in our business model. We don't force any brands to deal with us at all, or even
Right.
bike shops. We explain them our vision of what the brand will be, and they're really happy to hear that. So we want to focus more on the customer experience and the quantity of bikes we will sell per year.
So here's a question that I was going to ask. Are they built in Quebec?
No,
And where are they built?
they are assembled in Quebec.
Okay.
If you're not ordering a frame set, of course, a frame set will come from Asia, of course, sadly for now.
Yeah.
But all the bikes will be assembled in Quebec. Yes.
Okay.
Assemble meaning, because we got to be careful with that word, saying that all the components are coming from all the
Yeah,
different
everything's going to come
brands.
together in
We do
Quebec
a
and it's
quality
put together.
control. Correct. We do a quality
Yeah.
control here. First things first on the frame, and after that we assemble everything to our specs.
All right. Well, that's exciting news. So we'll have to have you back and talk further about that. Now,
Yeah.
let's talk about. So I am really curious about becoming a product review. I don't even know what you
Product
call
reviewer,
yourself.
kind of. Yeah.
Product reviewer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know we briefly talked about this because I was asking if you had women on your team, because
We do.
women, yeah, oh, good, because women are a huge market, I think way overlooked from a lot of companies.
So, to be honest, sadly, I wanted to have as many women's as men's. It's for certain reasons hard to acquire.
Really?
For the well, actually, for the serious portion of it, because people needs to understand that it's not only to what we call content creation of only taking pictures while you're on the top of a mountain. That's super easy to do. Thing is that behind all this, while you got to really test the product, you gotta you gotta write an article. You still have a certain deadline, meaning that you can't take 6 months to provide an article. So some of the people we tried in the past found that portion really hard. So in our case, we're trying to have more realistic type of pictures,
Right.
but to be able to, again, it comes to the guidelines of my bike brand being inclusive to everybody. So at the end of the day, it's hard to have reliable people getting on board. But yes, for me, the women perspective and the women portion of sports is sadly not as covered as men's. Perfect example, Tour de France, which came back for women's this year, and I still can't understand why it did not happen before. But this is a great example of, not being represented as equal as men. We're in 2022. I highly believe that a woman is as equal as a man. So that's it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just putting my name out there because I think it's super important. I've been doing a couple little reviews on things that I pick up and that I try out and that I recommend then to my club and my club members and on my YouTube channel. But it's important because it's funny because I did an interview with the Switchgrade seat angler. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's for mountain biking. It angles your seat like this on the fly. And
really? Wow.
Yeah, you should check out that episode. It's a couple ones back.
Well,
But
definitely
it's funny because he didn't take in consideration women and their lady parts and how they are highly affected by certain saddles. And I'm like, and so I think that is now like part of his R&D, which is having, so he's sending me one to test, and I hope I get it in time before it. I don't know when it's going to snow around here, but it's getting
actually
colder.
in Tremblant this morning they had snow.
Did they really?
Yeah. So already.
That's
So winter
scary.
is coming, not yet, but
I
I
know
guess
my,
it will.
you know, it's funny. My son went outside the door and he goes, "Mommy, it smells like snow." And wouldn't you know it, like I saw
Yeah.
on somebody's post, Edmonton had a bunch of snow. Like
Yeah,
it
well,
snowed
in
there.
Edmonton in September, it's pretty common too.
Is it?
Edmonton and Calgary, yeah, some of my families
Oh,
is in Calgary, and the fun part is, you want to know the temperature in Calgary? We'll tell you in 5 minutes. So,
oh yeah.
there's a thing in Calgary that they say that, so it's funny.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah,
so it was just funny, and the funny thing is that before I called you, I loaded up my car with the skis, the downhill skis, to go take them get tuned up and
yeah.
sharpened. I'm like, am
Well,
I
actually,
crazy?
when I'm finishing, I'm going for a small bike ride just to keep
Yeah,
the blood flowing for Sunday because it's a 70K,
I've heard it's really
a
cool.
thousand D plus. So it's gonna keep me in shape, I guess, next Sunday.
Yeah, you got to go hard there, Jonathan.
Yeah, well, it's not a
Like,
race, so
oh, of
yeah,
course it's not a race. It's never a race.
party in the back,
Whatever.
of course.
Whatever. So this has been super cool. I hope that all of our listeners have really taken away some great nuggets and also taken a moment or take a moment after this to go and check out. Yeah, where can check out the All Day magazine? So where is that? Where can people find that?
Well, actually, on Instagram is it's underscore all day magazine in one word. On
Okay.
Facebook, it's of course all day magazine, and on the website is it's allday.life.
All
So
day dot life. Okay.
yeah, if people want to know why is it called
Yeah.
all day, it's because we're talking about sports or activities that we wish we could do
All day.
all day, every day. So it's really one word, but yeah, it's a small thing that I like to do.
I think it's perfect. And if you ever bump into Jonathan, you might be lucky enough to get one of these amazing all day travel mugs, which are
Yep,
amazing. And I did some camping with that. I did take pictures of it all over PEI and
cool.
some other camping area, but I haven't had time to post things. I'm like so bad. But
Yeah, we do some merch from time to time. Available on bikecomponents.ca. There's right now buffs and super cool socks.
oh yeah, I do like your stickers though. I put those on my
Yeah.
Nalgene bottle.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, they're pretty popular on those Nalgene bottles.
Yeah, and you know what? It would be really cool to have that sticker on a sweatshirt like
Yeah,
this.
well, right now we with well, it's
Or on the
locked and
back.
loaded, but we're doing some what we call gravel flannels. So the gravel
Oh,
flannels, yeah, gravel flannels are being produced as we speak. There's two colors. There's one that is more of a, we call it pine tree, so it's a bit like in greens and
yeah,
blacks, and the other one we call it fall camo, so it's really
yeah.
oranges and reds and blues. And
Oh, I
so
want one
yeah,
of
it's
those. That's
yeah,
fine.
well,
Those are my
send me a
colors.
PM and I'll tell you exactly
All
how
right,
it
where to find
works.
them.
And we forgot to tell actually about to talk about Gravel Cup Canada because this is where we met actually,
Oh,
and we
yeah.
both won in our
That's
categories.
right. Yay.
So fun part is because people are like, wait a minute, you raced that gravel cup, you won, but this is not the focus he wants to go on. So what's the deal? I'll explain exactly what's the deal because people can jump on conclusions, but
Yeah.
actually I was doing gravel cups for articles for the magazine, of course, but I was never expecting in a million years to first of all finish on a podium this year. So I on gravel cup 3 I finished second. On the first race I finished sixth. And on the last race I participated, I finished fifth, and I was not supposed to attend that event actually until Brandon called me. He said, listen, buddy, you're the runner up for the championship, so
Ah.
you better show up. So I said, well, I'll give it a shot. So that's how I end up being the champion, which I'm really happy and proud, of course. But it
Yeah.
was never the focus on participating in Gravel Cup Canada, which I honestly think It's a well organized series. I'm really in love with those events. I met awesome people like you, Sylvie, and I'm planning next year to do all 4 events.
And also, Jonathan was a lucky one to see me crash out and slice up my arm.
Crashing is something. Having somebody to stop while racing, that's something else. But no, actually, you put the podium aside and you go to the rescue to make sure everybody was fine. It's in my DNA, and I got scared. I must admit I got scared, but at the end everything went well. We drank it.
I can't imagine what I look like while you're watching me lose control on the side of the track.
I didn't actually saw you lose control. I saw the leaves and everything moving, so I quickly understood something was going on. I was so focused on the race that I was like, "What? Whoa! Something happened here." So that's why I slammed the brakes, and it's okay.
I know, because I just passed you, right? I'm like, I was so angry. I wanted to go catch her, and then I lost control and had an accident. And so sometimes those feelings should really, you should listen to them, because they can get you in big trouble. But I was so glad, Jonathan was there watching me have a little pity, like a little fit on the side of the road.
The thing is that when if we remember, I got a big accident. It's because of people who stopped in the trail that helped me out. I actually I needed the whole team to come and pick me up, but still, they helped around and everything, that I'm still alive today. So that's why I have a mission. If somebody has a problem, I stop. Are you okay? Yeah, everything is fine. You're sure? Yes. Okay, I can go. But I think it is important. It's also a responsibility as a participant to take care of each other.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Anyway, so that's another little caveat on how we met each other. I think that's when we sat down and talked, and I came over to your tent, and we started chatting about your magazine. You had the stickers, you had your jersey on and everything, and I was like, hey, you need to be on my podcast. So I'm super glad that all happened. It's like an unfortunate, but I am totally okay. And so everybody can find you on social media. We'll add all the links in the description, but allday.life, where you want to do your sports all day for life. I love it. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. It's an honor. Thanks. And so I hope everybody enjoyed that episode, and don't forget to ride your bike today and be amazing. So with that, have a great day. Thanks a lot, Jonathan. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Hey friends, thank you for enjoying this podcast episode. I'd love to invite you to visit our new and exciting page on buymeacoffee.com/secret-saddle-pod to check out some cool downloadables. And if you are so inclined to supporting the podcast with the purchase of a coffee, would be greatly appreciated in helping keep the podcast going. Also, providing a separate rating and review on your favorite platform with any thoughts about the podcast are hugely helpful and appreciated. Thank you so much, and have yourself an amazing day. Thank you so much for spending this time with me on the Secrets from the Saddle podcast, learning more about sighting people, places, and things that make cycling such an exciting sport. I am so glad you stopped by today. Please leave me a review if you feel so moved to do so. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you could take 1 second to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it, I would be forever grateful. Also, if you could please leave me a review if you feel so moved by going to iTunes and leaving me an honest thought and an honest comment, telling me what you think, and most importantly, tell me what you'd like to hear more of. It would really help me to bring more great, inspiring cycling stories to you. Until then, Have an amazing day. Make sure you ride your bike. And don't forget to visit my YouTube channel if you'd like to see the full version of this podcast live.